1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Okay, it is 6:02. I'm going to call the meeting to order for the Huntley School District regular meeting for Thursday, June 21st, 2018. Can we have roll call?
Mr. Gentry?
Here.
Mr. Guerin?
Here.
Mr. Troy? Mr. Quagliano?
Here.
Mrs. Melendi? Mr. Fleck?
Here. Okay, we do have a quorum, and with that, I'll make a motion to go into closed session at 6:02. Is there a second? Second. Second by Mr. Quagliano, and then we'll have roll call again.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mr. Fleck?
Yes.
Mr. Gentry?
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi? Mr. Troy?
Okay, motion carries. We are in closed session. See you in an hour.
He didn't know how big a job it was. He was volunteering.
Okay, welcome everybody. First of all, thank you for your patience. We appreciate your waiting for us. I am coming out of a closed session, and there is action to take, but first at 7:08, let's take roll call.
Mr. Guerin,
Here.
Mr. Gentry,
Here.
Mr. Troy, Mr. Quagliano,
Here.
Mrs. Melendi, Mr. Fleck.
Here. Okay, we do have a quorum, so we can continue. We need some language for the action out of closed session, so. I'm getting it over here. Okay. Very good.
You can phrase that.
Okay. The action out of closed session, I will make a motion with respect to student 2018-02 to uphold the consequences set forth at the May 11th, 2017 and May 25th, 2018 administrative appeals.
Second.
Second from Mr. Guerin. Is there any discussion? If not, let's have a roll call.
Mr. Quagliano,
Yes.
Mr. Fleck,
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi, Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Mr. Gentry,
Yes.
Mr. Troy.
Okay, that motion passes. All right. I think we're on to the Pledge of Allegiance. So, I see a gentleman over here on the left, all in black. I think we should have him lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Johnny Cash?
Yes. Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, sure. Just don't eat the candy. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Ari, for leading us in the pledge. All right. I'm having computer issues, so I'm doing this the old-fashioned way, reading paper. We have some student recognition by the Board of Education, and that goes over to Mr. Ari.
Yes, thank you very much. I'd like to introduce our flag director, Mr. Glenn Wilson. Mr. Wilson, if you could please come up and introduce our...
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Rory, and congratulations as well. Thank you again for inviting us to a Board of Education meeting to celebrate accomplishment. We appreciate very much the opportunities you afford us, and baseball sure took advantage of that this past spring. After navigating Mother Nature, as many of you understood and endured yourself, they had a thrilling, exciting, terrific season culminating in second in state. So let's give them a round of applause for that achievement. Despite the weather, it was terrific to watch them grow and get better and get better and better as the weeks wore on. Thrilling victories with a walk-off home run versus Jacobs come to mind. An extra inning affair against Cary Grove where they're running out of daylight, and they secure the victory there. Many of you read about and heard about the unbelievable, awesome victory in the sectionals at McHenry, coming back in extra innings. Then, of course, the super sectional and wonderful games at State and Joliet, and thank you for many of you attending those games as well. So it is my privilege to introduce our baseball team, second in state, and leading off, pardon the pun, will be Coach Jakubowski. We invite him to come up. Congratulations.
Well, thank you everybody for having us, and
My guys know that I don't really like doing this in front of everybody, so I'm a little nervous, but
Stop winning. Then.
yeah, I'll do the best I can. So anyways, first off, I'd like to thank the community and board members, everybody that came out and supported us through our state run. It was a tremendous run, and our guys fought right up until the end, and you couldn't ask for anything more for what they did. And to our administration, for all their support, my coaching staff, we wouldn't be up here if it wasn't for them, and obviously our players. And one of the things that we did at the very beginning of the year is that we challenged our kids to become better teammates. We have a lot of guys that come from different travel programs and sophomore to juniors and seniors and everybody trying to morph together. So we challenged them to read a book called The Hard Hat by John Gordon and being a quality teammate. And I will tell you guys this. Throughout as the season progressed, these guys fought tooth and nail regardless of what their role was. And it was evident, as you guys saw in the sectional, when we played McHenry to what we did against Loyola and then eventually going downstate. And I can't tell you how many times in the last week or so that I've been, it's told congratulations, great run, all that fun stuff. And the one thing I always keep telling and coming back to is that we have no regrets. Our guys came back, they fought hard. I thought we played better defense. I thought we pitched just as well. We out-hit them. We just couldn't get that timely hit in the timely fashion. And baseball is a game of inches, and a couple inches either there, left or right, and maybe we're in a little bit different situation. But these guys are champions in my mind, and I couldn't be more proud of our team. Okay, so I'll introduce our players. First up, Jason Peters. He was now he's going to be a senior, third baseman.
Come on up. Yeah.
Yep, start a line. Okay, here we go. Next up, Eli Papuanis. He'll be a senior. He was a right-handed pitcher. He won our super sectional game against Loyola. Next up, Kyle Maurer. He's a senior. He's an outfield pitcher. Next up is graduated senior left-handed pitcher Nathaniel Goodrich. He'll be going to Missouri to further his education. Next up, our senior center fielder, graduated senior center fielder Joey Petriniak. He'll be playing at Wisconsin Oshkosh. Next up, Chris Constantino, graduated senior. He's an outfielder. He'll be playing at Loras College. Next up, graduated senior right-handed pitcher Keegan Garcelon. He'll be going to Coastal Carolina to further his education. Next up, senior Zach Model. He was our second baseman. Next up, senior outfielder A.J. Hinkle. Next up, graduated senior left-handed pitcher Joey Rosenthal. He'll be continuing his education at Illinois State University. Next up, senior Jackson Broom. He's a third baseman and a pitcher. Next up, graduated senior captain Cameron Hoffman, who is our catcher, and he'll be playing at Benedictine University next year. Next up, graduated senior right-handed pitcher Grant Yakominski. He'll be going to Wisconsin Oshkosh to continue his playing career. Next up, senior Hunter Rumacek. He's a left-handed pitcher, first baseman. He's very influential in our state run, especially winning coming in relief in our super sectional game. Next up, graduated senior captain, shortstop Jordan Goldstein. He'll be continuing his playing career at Dubuque University. Next up, senior Josh Tarlin. He's a first baseman for us. Next up, first baseman DH Matt Rodriguez. He's a graduated senior. He'll be continuing his playing career at Milwaukee School of Engineering. Next up, graduated senior left-handed pitcher Kyle Morgan. He'll be continuing his playing career at McHenry Community College. He was also Player of the Year of the conference, second team All-State, according to PBR, and then we just found out today that he was Player of the Year in Elgin Courier. Next up, senior outfield pitcher Davis Pasco. Next up, senior catcher Dylan Janke. Next up, senior outfielder Michael Teleski. And our coaching staff, assistant coach Chris Klein. He was actually on our 2010 state team, and now he got back to come help us coach. Assistant coach Dan Jennings, he was our pitching coach. And last but not least, assistant coach, hitting coach, and yoga guru, Derek Morehart. '18 state team, second place in state.
Come on up, gentlemen.
I know.
Just another medal for the. Yeah. So normally when we get the picture, you could actually see the Board of Education. Yeah, already am. Barons, come on up.
We are. State runner-up.
Oh, yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
And representing, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the first time I cared like my head about it. So.
Okay, while we're kind of clearing out, I just want to say that a lot of us on the board did have a chance to see some really good baseball up in McHenry and down in Joliet. Thank you guys for playing so well, and mostly thank you for representing the Huntley community the way you did. You did it with class, and you did it with the respect that it deserves. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
We're going to have public comment according to board policy. Is there any public comment at this time? Okay. With that, we'll move on to, yeah, we'll get there. We have another public comment section, so. All right. Moving on to revision and adoption of the agenda. And I'm still working my way through this, so bear with me. Mr. Oury, do you have a report? No, sir. Ms. Lombard, do you have a report?
Yes.
Okay, we'll keep that on. Dr. Schlichter? Okay. Mr. Altmeyer? No report. And Mr. Zaire?
Yeah, quick update.
Okay, quick update. And anything else? All right, well, with that, then I will make a motion to revise the agenda, removing, I already forgot, items 8, item 11, and that's it. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Quagliano. This is a voice vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the agenda is adopted. So with that, we'll go back down, and I guess we're on to number 9, Ms. Lombard.
Sure, I wanted to give just a brief update on the kindergarten registration that happened a couple weeks ago. We had June 6th and 7th were in the evening, well, 11 to 7 over at Legee and Cheswick, and then Monday, the 11th, over at McCaben. I'll start with Legee. At Legee, we ended the school year with 140 kindergarten students in 7 sections. And based on projections and enrollments, we had anticipated 6 sections for next school year. However, at registration, we had 147 register. That would be new students as well as those students coming from the ECC. We already knew we needed to add a kindergarten section back over. We were able to do that internally with some moves, so someone who had been involuntarily moved is back in kindergarten, and very excited to be doing that. Last year, we had 20 students enroll over the summer months before the first day of school. So if we match that same trend, we're going to want to watch closely the kindergarten over at Legee as well. And we've had 6 since June 6th already registered, so we'll be watching that. Over at McCaben, we ended with 194 kindergartners. We had in 8 sections. We currently had 141 students who had registered, again, new or those coming over from ECC. We've had 3 since kindergarten registration. So in the 8 sections there, we have about 18 average in class size. We had 20 enroll last summer, so even if projections stay within that, we should be okay for McCabe next year, but again, we'll watch those numbers as well. At Chesac, we ended the school year with 264 students in 12 sections. This year, we allocated 11 and held 1. It's a position that we have not assigned somewhere, just based on enrollment. We had, let's see, we've got enrolled right now 213 students. We've had 13 since kindergarten registration. Last summer, we had 46 over the summer register for Chesac. And right now, that's a class size of 19. If we get those students that we have historically, that section that we are holding right now would be, added back into that kindergarten class. So we really were tracking right on. I think some of the numbers are, we might like registration a little bit earlier. We are noticing that we are getting the majority of our students registering in June. The registration department, the tech department, and the buildings all did a fantastic job making sure things were set. Parents continue to be very, very pleased that it is in the school. Their kids get to see the school. They meet the administrators. They meet the teachers. They get to see a bus, many of them for the very, very first time. And so, again, we anticipate that we will be holding that in the schools next year as well. Any questions?
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for all the information. Okay. Dr. Schlichter.
Yes, just 2 brief items. So building on Ms. Lombard's report, we did have our dual language interest forms turned in at kindergarten registration for the dual language program. Very high interest, very, very positive response. We ran our lottery, and we have begun notifying families that they've entered the program or that they did not make it in through the lottery. And again, very positive response on both sides. Families very grateful for the program, and we are looking forward to a really, really positive start on that. And second, just want to update the board because we have discussed it a little bit. The Illinois State Board of Education did finally award the high school assessment contract to College Board, which is the SAT for the next 3 years. So you may have seen that come across. And the best news is they have an option to extend it past that for first refusal. So that is fantastic news for us. The other thing that the State Board is doing, which again is great news, is they are going to be purchasing and paying for the PSAT in grades 9 and 10. For us. And so this past year we had a contract, we paid for it because we wanted our students to be able to take that preparation assessment. State Board will be doing it. A little bit of a downside is they're dictating the dates to us, and so that's going to pose a little bit of a logistical issue, but we'll definitely work that out. So upcoming year, what we'll see coming through in terms of our purchase is significantly less. We'll be purchasing it for 8th grade, and then the PSAT NMSQT, which is basically the one that the 11th graders take in the fall in order to look at national merit. So we'll just be purchasing those 2 instead of 4, including 9th and 10th. So great news from the state on that, both to have the certainty and also that they are going to be footing a little bit more of the bill for us. Any questions on that?
Question on the PSAT. The state dictates the dates. Is there going to be alternative dates for people that are sick that day or whatever? And that's
Yeah, just the same way that always they've said, oh, the SAT is on this day and then here's the makeup day. When we were purchasing it, we could choose to do it in the fall, and we did because we wanted to get that data a little bit earlier in the year. The state is dictating spring dates. So it'll be that date, then a makeup date for each of them. For us, just with the size of our high school, it poses a little bit of a challenge because if we're trying to test all of our sophomores or all of our juniors or all of our freshmen on the same day, it just disrupts a little bit. So, we may come to you with an update and just say, oh, we had to make some logistical changes in the high school day for a day to make it happen. But, yeah, absolutely, we'll have those makeup days.
when do you think we'll get those actual dates?
I have the dates. I can actually get them for you. I just have to look up in the memo.
All right.
It's
As
I
long as we
believe,
have
in
them,
April.
that's fine.
Yep, we do have them.
Okay, let's see, Mr. Altmeyer didn't have anything, so I'm sorry, on to number 12, Human Resources Report, Mr.
Yeah,
Zaire.
just a real quick update. We had some questions coming back from our working compensation program. Mark and I reached out to Gallagher to get some clarification on that as we're seeing an increase. And we talked about an actuarial credit of 21.5% that came to us in the previous years. And Mark gathered a little bit more information and was speaking to them why these numbers look the way they do.
Oh, so you want me to take over? See, Adam said it was going to be a really quick update because he knew I was going to speak. So just FYI for everybody. Just to give you a little more information on the actuarial debit. So in prior year, the district received a $114,000 credit as it related to prior year's workman's comp. Now, an actuarial debit or credit, I had to ask for a better definition than what they provided within the premium invoice here. Is when the pool receives an increase in workman's comp claims year over year, let's say it's 2% or 5%, a way in which to spread that increase is obviously by looking at the experience of the pool itself and rewarding districts that have great experience over a 5-year trend, and obviously those districts that don't have a great experience over a 5-year trend aren't going to go ahead and they're going to receive more than a 5% increase. So in prior year, we were actually one of the best districts in the pool, receiving a 21%, actually $114,000 credit against our invoice. The good news is this year we also received an actuarial credit, but only a 4%, which means we're still performing better than the average district within the pool, but certainly not as well as we did in prior year, receiving that $114,000 credit. From a workman's comp standpoint, we just continue to get it done. We have a modification factor, which is experience over a 3-year term, and that went down from 1.16 to 1.11 in the current year. So as we continue to move forward, we should see decreases in premiums moving forward. Unfortunately, this year it looks like it's a large increase simply because we had a $114,000 credit in prior year come our way. So hopefully that explains, I believe, Mr. Gentry's question at the Committee of the Whole meeting. Just want to give the board an update.
Thank you. Thanks. Anything else, Mr. Zaire? No. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Guerin for the Community Relations and Student Outreach.
Yeah, the FOIA report is on there and nice descriptions on all the things. Any questions anybody has? Great, then we'll move that along.
Okay, that was wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, and Dr. Hawk, number 14, Superintendent's Report.
You have a list of donations. The donations total $4,322.70. There are approximately 8 of different donations to different programs within the school district. Any questions related to any of those donations?
No.
Okay, so we'll move it forward. Approve it.
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't really have a president's report at this time, so I will move on to 16, which is the consent agenda. First, is there any items that you would like removed from the consent agenda?
I'd like to have 16.5.7 removed.
Okay, very good. Anything else? All right. Now I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the removal of number 16.5.7. I said that right. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Quagliano. I think that's a roll call, isn't it? Roll call.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Mr. Fleck?
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi? Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mr. Gentry?
Yes.
Mr. Troy?
Okay, motion carries. With that, I will make a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Guerin. This will be a roll call as well.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Mr. Fleck?
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi? Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mr. Gentry?
Abstain.
Mr. Troy?
Okay. I think that carries. So, yeah, okay, there we go. Then items removed from the consent agenda. which would be 16.5.7, designation of depositories. Oh, is that?
That's why I thought.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry, missed dress rehearsal. Okay. Very good. Then I guess we're on to building and grounds? 16.6, Building and Grounds Committee. So, Mr. Troy's not here. Let's go to Mr.
We're on 18.
Oh, for crying out loud. Okay, look at that. Okay. Then the action items. Okay, we'll go to 18.1, the supplemental purchase orders and supplemental accounts payable. Any presentation or comments on that? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the supplemental purchase orders and accounts payable in the amount of $3,712,075.80, and the supplemental accounts payable report at $17,038.45 is listed in the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Quagliano. Roll call.
Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano,
Yes.
Mr. Fleck,
Yes.
Mr. Troy, Mr. Gentry,
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi.
All right. Section 18.2, fiscal year 18 salary rate change recommendations for non-union employees. Mr. Zare, is there anything that we need to know about this?
It's just an updated memo. We pulled this, decided to bring it to an action item because of some new state legislation that came in with pension spiking. So at this point, administration is recommending to the board for at-will employees, also administrative 1 and administrative 2 contract employees, a 3.5% rate increase for fiscal year 19. Also did have a note in here about those folks that would be in that 4-year window for a 3% increase for the 18-19 school year also. Also, we've had discussion about our OTs and PTs and that salary schedule that has existed for them, looking to eliminate that salary schedule and bring them over to the salary schedule with the teachers, with the base salaries coming off of the TRS not included salary schedule, and that is clearly laid out there with language. And then the last item there, if someone had agreed to a multi-year contract or a market adjustment, those multi-year contracts would be acted upon at this meeting, or if there was a market adjustment, it was acted on the personnel report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments on that? All right, with that, I will make a motion on the recommended rate change for non-union support staff, professional staff, and administrative staff increase for fiscal year 19 as set forth in the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Quagliano. Roll call.
Mr. Gentry,
Yes.
Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Mr. Troy, Mr. Quagliano,
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi, Mr. Fleck.
Yes. Okay, that motion carries. Okay, 18.3, the Guaranteed Energy Savings Contract. Mr. Renkosik.
Well, we've talked about this quite a bit over recent months. I'd like to think we have some pretty solid agreements here. There are actually 4 separate agreements, a general terms and conditions agreement, and 3 individual campus energy services agreements for a PPA agreement for providing our about 80% of our 70 to 80% of our solar power consumption via solar on site behind the meter. I'm really excited about the opportunity to save this district a whole lot of money coming years. Happy to answer any questions. And Mark has worked real hard, and we also have our partner, potential future partner here from Forefront, Rachel McLaughlin, if you have any questions.
Okay, so I would just ask that Mark or Doug, if you could just update from where how this agreement's about.
Before we do that, I think, if I got the right thing, I think Mr. Troy wanted to be called in on this.
I don't know that he was available.
I talked to him earlier. So,
Did you?
Yeah, and he's out on business, so he can be called in on this. So, hold on a second. Yeah. Sorry, everyone. Okay. The number you have reached. All right. Right? Oh, do you got to dial out first? Is there no? Okay. Hi, Paul, this is the board, and you are live at the meeting. Can you speak now regarding the guaranteed energy savings contract?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay. Mr. Quagliano, carry on.
Okay. So if either one of you can address just what has evolved or changed since what was last presented at the Committee of the Whole.
There was discussion at the last Committee of the Whole meeting about the question of property tax.
Yep.
The school district has received legal opinion on this matter, and it renders that we should not be concerned with that because it's a behind-the-meter installation, as I understand it, Mark. Please feel free to chime in there.
Correct. And I think I shared this with numerous board members.
Right.
Essentially because we're receiving the benefit of 100% of the solar energy being provided, combined with the fact that we're not leasing the land.
Right.
It is no longer an issue for a tax-exempt governmental entity such as ourselves. So we should not worry about losing our tax exemption on that property.
Right. I think we all had the opportunity to read the opinion of the attorney, and I think we're all pretty comfortable with that, so that's good. Check one box.
There was a lot of discussion about exactly what could we define a cap on the potential renewal rate at the end of this contract if we wanted to continue with the power purchase agreement with our partner. And there's been language put in there that will not exceed 4.35 cents per kilowatt hour at the end of year 20. There's discussion briefly about buyout, and we've got clarification in here that there will be an appraisal done at our request by Forefront at their expense. If there's a dispute on that matter and another appraisal is sought for a comparable, depending on where the value comes in as that comparable will determine who pays for that comparable. But the buyout would be, the test for buyout, just to be clear with the board, is one of two ways. If you look back on, for example, page 47 of 60 as an example, there are some numbers there for early termination fee with purchaser takes title. That is, the test is it would be either at this rate or it would be at fair market value, whichever is higher, just to clarify for the board.
I think Rachel McLaughlin from Forefront is here. Is that correct? Okay. My glasses aren't working either. I'm kind of all over the place, so I apologize. But if you'd like to come up and if you want to answer any questions or provide any information, please do. Thanks for coming, by the way. Okay.
Yeah, happy to answer any additional questions you want.
Okay.
Oh, yes, they taught me about this last time.
There you go.
And I'm not a good learner, apparently. Yeah, if there are any additional questions about the project, happy to answer them.
Right. So from our standpoint, what got addressed that we were looking to get addressed was on the back end of this contract, our ability after year 20, what rate we could continue on at. That's been addressed. It's certainly it's a higher rate than the 265 that's in there, but it's still a rate that's competitive to where things are at right now. So
And
that
certainly
addresses
where
that.
there will
and
be
then- right.
potentially.
And then we have. I mean, the important thing is our ability to maneuver after year 20 with this equipment. So we have the ability to buy it. We think we'd be buying it maybe for about 10% of.
435 was that number?
Yeah, I think it was 435.
4.35.
4.35. Yeah.
From
1 point-
2.6.
Yeah,
From-
it's 1.75
But that's
above.
a ceiling.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
to exceed,
Yeah.
to be negotiated at that
Right.
time.
Right.
Right.
And
Exactly.
and we typically, I dug into this a lot more with our finance team, and this
I don't know why this hasn't come up more from customers, so you all might be enterprising in this way, but I haven't had a customer ask to establish that before, so we had to dig into this with financing to make sure we could still finance it. And so that's where the ceiling concept came from, because if we established the exact same rate, we thought we would run into some financing difficulty.
No, that's okay. And again, it was just important for us to have something set
Yes.
that was still reasonable, and so that was addressed. That's good. Again, we have the issue, or the ability to buy out the system at the end, if we so choose, at fair market value. That's again 20 years from now. We throw out an estimate. It might be about 10% of what the current cost is today, right?
Correct. But I think it's also important to note we have the opportunity to buy the system out at any one point in time.
Right.
And so the reason we added, when we choose, we could look at this early termination fee, which, per discussion with Forefront and their actuaries and their finance folks, the early termination fees as outlined here approximate right now what they feel to be the fair market value based on direct cash flow in the future years. So keeping that in mind, at year 16, with the termination value at 0.20, to purchase the whole system, that would approximate $1.1 million. So at each one of these years, whether it's year 9, year 6, we will actually look at the opportunity. We have the potential to look at the opportunity to say, is this the year we want to buy the system? At year 16, if we can actually obtain this system for $1.1 million, and at that time we're going to be incurring, based on today's run rate, well over $1.1 million a year in electricity, and by then we'll be on LED, which hopefully the system may be generating 90 to 100% of the energy we need. We're talking about a break even of less than 1 year. So we won't have to wait till year 20. We could actually purchase the system in year 16. We might opt, in year 14, it might be a 2-year, 3-year break even, and we might say, something?
It's worth
With
doing.
a 3-year break even, let's just do it now, because we're going to yield about $2 or $3 million more in savings over the 20-year period than we would have otherwise. So, there's obviously a financial opportunity here, which is why we added some additional language to the contract for clarity at the end of the contract, but also on the
during the course.
to have them pay for the appraisal as well, so that at any point in time, they'll pick up the cost of the first appraisal. We'll go through that process and we'll make that decision. Is now the right time to purchase the system?
And the appraisal still has to be an appraiser that is approved by both parties.
Right.
So it's not like we get to pick the appraiser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were important issues and I think you guys addressed them very well, and that's that part of it is working for me pretty well. I'm trying to think, is there anything further that was modified of substance post-cow meeting?
You all succeeded in the negotiation process to add items that were not part of the RFP process and not part of typical agreements. So in that way, you negotiated a good contract.
We have tough people. They do a good job. They do a good job. Yeah.
Huh?
So we'll be consulting.
I
your next
know.
client.
I know. I need to watch out.
No, it's a good deal.
Was
I
that
don't
the
have-
remainder of the changes in terms of what's changed in the last couple weeks?
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, there was a lot of changes in the week or two right before the cow meeting
Right.
too, so I've kind of lost track what is where, but I do know at some point in there, we did some tightening up of language about removal as well. and-
Right.
And not to frustrate our operation on the property, that I think I feel real good about.
Okay,
Yeah.
Those were the materials.
okay.
Paul, do you have any questions? No, I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've just I've spoken several times since the cow with Mark on stuff. So I have a high confidence level in things that have been addressed and what's going on with this contract. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. It's a big. Again, this is a pretty big deal. For us. It's I mean, it's pretty big. Do you have a school district that's done anything close to this as far as the size?
You all are very unique in that you have
Land. Yes.
So, yeah, I don't think
Probably
so.
not. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of my point. Is this is a pretty
Yeah.
substantial, consequential contract for us, and it's great that everybody's gone through a very good, thorough process in getting us to this point. So very, very supportive of where we're at right now on it.
All right. I just want to tag on this also, is this is something that we've all taken a lot of hard look at because of the length of the contract. We're committing to 20 years potentially, which is going to be several boards ahead. And it looks really good in the short term. I just want to make sure that we're not leaving somebody holding the bag in the long term. And I think that the negotiations have been good in that respect. The opinions we got, the buyout numbers, the way we understand them, all seem to make sense for us. So thank you for working with us on that and all the thoroughness in addressing all these issues. Okay.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Okay. So with that, is there anything else?
Nope, nothing here.
Okay. Well then, I'm sorry. Let me go back to the beginning here. I want to make sure I'm making the right motion. It's a 20-year commitment. I want to make sure it's. Maybe I'll have someone else make the motion. So, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agreements with Forefront Power in their final form as presented in the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Guerin. Is there any other further discussion? Okay.
Just a quick clarification. I mean, that, I'm kind of reading the agenda, but it's kind of not there. We are asking for formal approval, right?
Yeah.
As written.
And to be sure, there's a lot of other approvals that have to come through.
Yeah.
And we have to jump through all those hurdles.
This is our last shot at our approval.
But I guess I'm a little bit concerned on the documentation, if there's any issue on, is that clear on the agenda that is for final approval?
Yeah, we've been presented with the contract as.
No, I know,
Yeah,
but
so.
I'm not talking about the agenda.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, it's asking for a roll call vote, and that's the recommendation in the materials. So, per the materials that are attached to that, the motion is to approve the agreement with Forefront Power in its final form. Okay, and there's a second from Mr. Guerin. So with that, let's have a roll call.
Mrs. Melendi? Mr. Gentry?
Yes?
Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Mr. Fleck?
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. And then in terms of next steps, as you mentioned, we have to work on permitting the project, and so we'll do so in cooperation and coordination with all of you to ensure that it goes smoothly. And we've submitted interconnection applications, so those are going through with comment. Thank you.
And we do appreciate you working on a communication plan.
Yes.
To help us inform our public, because that'll be a critical piece.
Yep, and I know Dan and David from my team are working on that a lot.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Ms. McLaughlin. Okay. Mr. Troy is going to stay on for the remainder of the meeting, so with that, we'll go to 18.4 multi-year contracts. Dr. Hawk.
I'm pleased to indicate the fact that we have reached agreement on multi-year contracts with 4 individuals on the cabinet staff, Mr. Adam Zier, Dr. Chris Baczynski, Mr. Dan Armstrong, each with a 3-year contract, Mr. Mark Altmeyer with a 5-year contract. All 4 of those contracts will be posted after the board meeting after approval.
Is there any discussion on that? Okay, I will make a motion to approve the multi-year contracts as presented.
Second?
second from Mr. Gentry. Let's have a roll call.
Mr. Garin,
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano,
Yes.
Mr. Fleck,
Yes.
Mr. Troy,
Yes.
Mr. Gentry,
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. 18.5, change order number 1 to contract with Abbey Paving and Seal Coating. Mr. Renkosik.
In the field, as we've tried to get at this project off and running with the parking lot improvements at Chesac and Martin, we had had some loose ends with the site lighting as far as the geometry of where the poles would go, and we had some preliminary locations determined by a civil engineer that were in the bid package. We have since had an electrical engineer working with a lighting designer to try to see how the photometric layout of that kind of design would render in the parking lots. And it has been determined that we're lacking of even getting close to the existing site lighting level that we had in the past, and that we needed some additional poles because of the reconfiguration of all the parking. And what we know at this point in time, I just got information this morning finally with a completely revised photometric layout. But what I had known about a week ago is where pole positions and conduits underground might be that would serve the purpose of getting us back to that light level. We just didn't know exactly what size fixture and what pole would be in the property. And the contractor that's building the property needs to get that conduit in the ground, and needs to know where those light pole bases that we're going to need to add are positioned so that he can continue his work progress to get us delivered and complete in time for the start of school. And so we've negotiated with him. We've had opinion of a civil engineer and electrical engineer. The additional cost for running the revisions to the underground conduit and installation of the concrete pole bases only to the district would be a cost of $34,800. In addition, it has come to my attention between when we awarded the bid and when we started the project that we had a major rainstorm and we had water flowing out of one of the downspout inlets into the ground right at the main entrance of Chesac. It's like the water that was coming off the roof into the downspout couldn't be accepted by the storm sewer pipe entering the ground. And so I asked for a location to be done. What they determined, there's a blockage somewhere. In addition, we knew vaguely that there were a couple of other storm sewers daylighting in the large old detention pond in front of Chesac's northwest elevation there, and that we wanted to see where they went. And they appear to go to the drain tile that's around the perimeter gravel stone bed around the building where we have no gutters. We just simply have water running off the roof into this gravel bed, and how that's been collected is a drain tile around the perimeter of the building. Those storm sewers are actually very, very shallow, and the full depth reclamation and asphalt replacement project will basically damage or crush them or fill them with cement, and they need to be repositioned as well. And we went through a few iterations with the civil engineer and the contractor on that, and it's been determined that a fair and reasonable price for rerunning those pipes so we can avoid any future stormwater blockages with the completion of this project is an additional $42,841 at the most. We are not completely done negotiating with them. They started at a higher number, and there's a little bit discussion about trench backfill yet, and that we still need to work out. But this project is on a fast track. It's going to be mostly done by the time the board meets again. So we're asking for the board's approval to authorize a change order not to exceed the amount of the aggregate of those two numbers for a total of $77,641. I would want to advise the board that we are working on a couple of other changes which will be credits to the district, which will mostly offset these costs we expect. One is we've had further discussions with the fire department about do we really need to have a piece of a drive for an emergency area where we've got several other emergency access to the front to the building already. And after further review with them, they have said that they don't need that, and we're working on final numbers to get a credit back for for that piece of asphalt that would be used only for that. In addition, there's been a whole lot of discussion about the mix design on the asphalt. The contractor's offering a value engineering opportunity that we've got a forensic engineer and expert in the geotechnical and civil engineering field right now evaluating that. He's yet to turn in his recommendation to me, but we could stand to save between those two things most likely more than the cost of this change order that I'll be bringing back to you. Reconciliation as soon as it becomes available.
All right, so the change order is the aggregate of the two numbers without this alternate that's listed on here, is that right?
That is correct, because we do not know, we just found out like this morning what poles and lights fixtures we need, and I'll have to go out for pricing on that to follow, but the paving can continue, and which is really important, and we may, it's possible we might start the school year with missing a few light poles, but it surely won't be much longer than the start of the school year before we get them. So
I'm sorry, how much was the original bid?
the original,
For all the work they were doing? Do you have that?
oh, the project itself?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's 2.8 million plus.
Okay.
2.845, something like that.
All right.
It's nowhere near that 5%.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Troy, we'll start with you.
No, I followed the whole thing, and I'm good with what you proposed.
Okay, very good. Anyone else? All right. With that, I will make a motion to approve change order number 1 for Abbey Paving bid number 2018-19 in the amount of not to exceed $77,641 as presented in the materials.
Second.
A second from Mr. Quagliano. Any additional discussion? There being none, let's have a roll call.
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Mr. Fleck?
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi? Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mr. Gentry?
Yes.
Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. And that takes us to number 19, public comment. Do we have any public comment, Mr. Armstrong?
We do, in fact, have.
Awesome. Okay.
I would, while we're getting those public comments, like to introduce 2 new employees to the district, Anthony Venetico, sorry, Anthony, and Amy McCrindle. If you guys would stand and just let us get a chance to recognize them. They were included in the personnel report and were approved, so they're ready to get going.
Okay. Well, welcome to the district, and we look forward to working with you. Appreciate it. Okay, let's work on this order here. Here's somebody by the name of Kim Skaja? Skaja? Okay.
So funny. Well, howdy. I'm not usually on this side. I wanted to talk a little bit about someone we all know and love, and that's Terry Ori, and to thank him publicly for all the years of service to my kids, your kids, and everybody else's kids in this community. He is the only person I have ever met that everyone who talks about him in a positive way. I've never known anybody else who command respect the way that you do. It's really pretty awesome. At the beginning of this meeting, we got the opportunity to meet all those really cool, very handsome young baseball players, and they were here to be presented by the board in honor of the work that they did and the recognition they had at the state level. And I worked very closely with Mr. Ori to develop the criteria because we knew we wanted to honor kids and we wanted to bring them before the board and say, pat them on the back and say, great job. But we wanted to do it in a way that was really meaningful. And we wanted to make sure that we weren't doing the trophy for everybody, but that we were, we had good criteria. And Mr. Ori was so great, with a huge resource, and we couldn't have done it. It wouldn't be this great as it is now. And I do miss the days also when we used to have the kids put their artwork in here, and you would lead the parents and the kids and award them for that. That was pretty cool too, but yeah, times change. But anyway, I wanted to publicly say thank you so very much. I don't normally talk off the cuff, but here I did. And I didn't even cry, which is really good for me. If Leslie was here, she'd be really impressed. But thank you so much, Terry. The world's not going to be the same without you sitting in that chair. Take care.
Thank you very much. Don Drizal on what he wrote was a plethora of topics.
Don Drizel, 190 Wright Drive, Lake in the Hills, Illinois.
Timer is on, sir.
I'm usually shy and nervous, so I don't know what to say. First of all, I want to turn in my ID.
I'll turn mine in next week.
I also want to say thank you to Terry Ori, who's just been a stoic rock of just amazing talent, amazing compassion, amazing focus on what makes this district so great. A focus on the students and a focus on the kids. You know, I've obviously had the pleasure the last 9 years working directly with everybody on the administration, and I hold everybody in the cabinet, all you principals, with such high respect. You guys do such a fantastic job, and it's not like we bounce from district to district being board members. We have really only the district we have in front of us, and I think it's easy for us to take for granted how expert all of you are in your roles, and each one of you brings so much to the district. And when it comes to you, Terry, just so many things come to mind, and it was brought up earlier, your role as you know, the basically the hearing officer, and being so impartial. Compassionate is always the term that comes up, and part of that word is passion, and your passion to do right by the students of our community is just so admirable, and I really thank you for giving me the opportunity to work with you for 9 years directly. Because prior to that, I got to say, I didn't know you. I wasn't that, I guess, involved. And anybody who is not involved in this district, I challenge them to spend a little more time to get to know people like Terry and all of you on the board. You guys are in administration. You're just fantastic people. Thank you for allowing me to work with you. And congratulations to the baseball team. And I wanted to point out one more thing, because my time's probably running out. I think we got a quorum of ex-members out here as well. So, you know, if you ever run short, just let us know. We can always pinch it.
We got a deep bench,
Thank you.
right? Okay. Thank you, Don. Okay, from a plethora of topics to the next one who wrote a lot of things, Dr. John Berkey.
Not quite.
You know, I'm always a wordsmith, so. So I just thought I would have some musings tonight since I'm here. So let's see what I got. Four cabinet members got multi-year contracts. Congratulations. Four very high-quality people that I got to work with, and I think District 158 is in great hands to have them for the next, I guess, 3, 5, if that order was done right. I don't know. So and then back here, you 3 or 5? You're 3. Okay. Well, Mark's been around a long time, so and you really deserved it, because there are no VCRs in the district. So that is an inside joke. But so anyway, congratulations to you. Let's see what else have I got. Oh, new Marlowe principal, Anthony, right? Okay, Anthony, welcome to the district. Are you from Dunlap? No. Okay. Just checking. The one thing I would tell you is almost everyone in the district leadership is a former middle school principal. So middle school principals seem to do well advancing in leadership. Would also tell you, I've already heard some very good things about you. It's great to have you. I have a daughter going into 6th grade next year. I had a son who did go to Marlowe, and you're going to be in much better hands with my daughter at Marlowe. things are going to go much better than they did a few years ago. So we got that. We've got new into curriculum. I guess Amy McCrindle, you're going to be a curriculum director, and what area? assessment, program evaluation, right, right, and other things is determined by Erica. So duties to be assigned. Well, again, hear good things. My wife actually has the good fortune of working closely with Amy and speaks very highly of her. So I'm sure she'll do very well here. Now, you know, my organization represents District 300, so I have to be agnostic here, but good job, 158, on getting a District 300 person. What else have I got? Terry, you know, I had the opportunity before I left to say things about you and had the opportunity earlier tonight, but again, congratulations. And Don, you know, same thing. I got to say some things earlier, so congratulations to you. But I want to take a minute just to actually thank Brad. Because somebody left you early. So we were in January and we needed an interim superintendent, and we were just very fortunate as a district that Brad was available, applied for the job, got the job, and Brad and I have known each other for over 20 years because we did our doctorate programs together, and Brad's a great guy, and I can tell you from everybody I hear from, they just say, God, he was the perfect person to be the interim, to bridge the gap. And so Brad's a great person, and really appreciate you stepping in, because obviously I still really care about the district and want it to do well. And it's great to see, you know, somebody of high quality like you with your experience come in. And you know, the one comment I hear is, gosh, he's just so even-tempered. And they never said that about me. Well, I was a little more on the high-strung side, I guess. You've been the perfect anecdote. So really, thank you, Brad, for coming and doing it. And finally, Dr. Rowe, I hope you're enjoying it out there, because it's the last time. So it's the last time. So I got a chance to look in the office, and I see you've moved the furniture around, which is great, because I've always said that's the first thing you should do when you take over a job, is just rearrange the office. It shows that there's somebody new. And yes, I noted the blue wall. The blue wall was gone, and I didn't see any Cubs things in there. So those seem to be gone. But I did notice the JFK poster in your office. So your 3 should have been a 5. Okay. And my last final thing, much less significant, but I was very happy when I came in tonight. I've been continually concerned the speed bumps would be removed, because there was some talk as I left from the person who really runs the district, Mrs. Stock, that they were going to be removed. And as you know, I'm very, very pro speed bump. Every 10 feet would be great. So it's good to see they're still there, and I trust. I see the massive construction project going on at Reed Road. I am a neighbor who's very happy with what's going on. So I think it's going to be great for traffic and for safety. So it's great to see that project going, and I trust there will be, even though I hear it's some kind of new high-tech speed bump you're doing, I'm very glad to see there will be speed bumps. So anyway, with that, again, congratulations, Terry and Don. Thank you for your service, and thanks a lot, Brad, for taking over.
Okay. John Berkey will be appearing at the Golden Nugget. And actually, for those of you that don't know, he, in high school, ran a Letterman-style talk show. And obviously, you've got the skill set still together, so great. Thanks. Feel free to come in and do that very often. That was quite good. Scott Iddings, please.
Terry, you and I have a lot in common. We've talked about this before, our love of music, sports, and the students that we get the privilege of working with. All those things have helped us bond in our relationship. So I thought it would be most appropriate to throw out a few Beatles quotes to show how you reflect in those words. So from John Lennon: "When I was 5 years old, my mom always told me that happiness was the key to life. When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wrote down happy. They told me I didn't understand the assignment, and I told them they didn't understand life. You, my friend, are one of the happiest and most content people I have known." From George Harrison: "When you've seen beyond yourself, then you may find peace of mind is waiting there." Terry, you have always put your family and your students and your colleagues in front of yourself. You are one of the most selfless people I have ever known. And again from Mr. Lennon, count your age by friends, not years. Count your life by smiles, not tears. By those measures, you, Terry Ori, have lived many blessed lives. We love you and wish you nothing but the best.
Jen Zayas.
Want to pass one up here?
Well, Terry, how we'll miss you. So how I met Terry, I don't know if he remembers, I came. He did. But the first time I did meet you was in '96. You were a middle school principal. I came with my brother to meet the principal over at Huntley. And he was going into 7th grade. He's like, oh, you guys are coming from Puerto Rico. You need to meet Barb Gomez. And we're like, we speak English. And Terry was like, oh, okay, just wanted to make sure Barb Gomez could help us. And we're like, no, we speak a lot of English. And I remember, and he asked me, what do you do? And I said, well, U46 hired me as a teacher. I said, do you have any jobs here? He's like, not right now. So 7 years later, I met Terry again. I applied for an ESL position over at LeGee, and Terry was the first person I met there. And Terry's like, interviewed me. He said, are you sure you want to come here? You're leaving your classroom. I said, yes, I want to come here. He was the first person I met when I came, the person that hired me in this district. And he truly, when he calls all the time, he asks, how are you doing? He doesn't say it because it's just nice to say. He really does want to know, how am I doing? And we want to know how you're doing, Terry, so thank you.
Thank you. Julie McLaughlin.
Terry, it's been almost 20 years that I've been in the district, and I can say you are the individual that I became such close friends with. You were there all the time whenever we needed anything. And I can remember a time when a staff member needed something, and you were so worried about that individual, and you, as assistant principal at Heinemann, when I was assistant principal at Heinemann, you called almost daily to see how that person was. And it was just amazing to know how much you cared about all the staff members. What was even more amazing was how the kids were always number one in your heart. And it was something that I want to carry with me as well. Next to Dr. Hawk, you are the person that knows so many people by their names. And I think it is so awesome that somebody walks up to you and you know their name. Terry, we will definitely miss you. I wish you the best of luck. And to know that you're coming back to work with the kids again is amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anna Hoyu.
Good evening. Terry, I've only been here 3 years, and I've barely had a chance to really work with you, but I will say that I learn best from other people's stories, their failures and their successes, and if I was going to learn from you, it's all the stories of success that other people have told me and have talked about, your student-centered vision and all the things that you've done for this district. So I may not have been able to witness it, but I've learned from it. So thank you for teaching me in only 3 years. And the one time that I actually really needed Terry, I don't know if you remember this, maybe a year ago, I had an emergency at McCabe. I called Adam Dean, who was unavailable, which he is not even here today. He's going to be mad at me. I know, it's the best part. But he was unavailable, and Terry came over. I know we're only a minute away, but you were over there very quickly and waited by my side because I thought there might have been trouble brewing, but we were safe and good. And I just appreciate your responsiveness and all the things that I've been able to learn from you in the last 3 years. So thank you, Terry. And by the way, I'm a little slightly offended that you're going to work with Rhonda in her program over there and not at McCabe. But come on over, cross that bus parking lot, and come party with us too. Okay, all right, it's a date.
Cheryl Paulus.
Bring paper with me so I don't cry. I can't do it off the cuff. All right. Well, Terry, is, same as Julie, being in the district almost 20 years, you've definitely been one of the constants in District 158. So your name, anywhere you say Terry Aury, people know who you are, no matter what their position is in the district, and it's truly amazing. One of the things that really stands out is they always say, the little things in life are what matters, those small things, and not everybody takes time for those little things because we're so busy, so we're always shooting for those big things and not taking the time to slow down. But Terry, you always take the time for those small things, so I just want you to know I really appreciate it. You're always the first one to welcome somebody when they come in the room, give them a smile, a hello. You always remember what's going on in our lives. If I talk about my dad being in the hospital, it could be a month later I don't see Terry, at the district office, but he'll remember that and say, oh, how is your dad doing? And it's just all those little things, Terry, that you always take the time for. And an email, we're all so quick, so our emails are usually, you get the answer out as fast as you can. Terry always takes the time to say thank you for something specific that you did, or great job on, completing this task, or even if it's just have a nice weekend. So those little touches are really important. I just want you to know that people do see those, and it does mean a lot to them. So just, thank you so much for doing all of those things. And then also just keeping the kids first, always being there for an answer. Anytime I've had a call for the many years in the district, no matter what position, you were always there. And if you didn't know the answer, you always got right back and made sure that it was taken care of. So it's really just definitely appreciated. Always being kind, and I'm sure I got everything here. And yeah, I think I did. So, whew, and I did it without crying. So thank you so much, Terry. And we're really going to miss you, and I'm happy you're still going to be around. So thank you.
Jake Litchfield.
Terry, unlike Anna, we've had a lot of time to work together. A middle school assistant principal or a middle school principal role, you do not forget the extension 6131. It is one of your go-tos. So Terry, we never discussed a mentor role for me. We never put a label on it, but you have mentored me in a couple different ways I wrote down here. Especially in discipline situations, you always said, have patience in gathering the facts. And that took a while to learn, that it wasn't always on that first day of looking into a situation. You were always asking those follow-up questions that I knew I needed to have the answers for. Remove the deed from the doer. The student who is making that poor choice is still going to be a student who returns to the building. That was a huge lesson I learned from you early on. Keeping the student at the forefront of focus and discipline decisions. So it's a tough decision to make, but we're keeping the student at the focus of welcoming them back to the building was ultimately our goal. And you always said you have a responsibility to be one of the first people they see back in that building, and what are you going to do to follow up with that student to help make them better student and making better choices. Terry, I'll miss calling you to discuss these situations, and you've always been that rock that's been there to give us advice. I'm already passing on this information to other assistant principals, and we had a room full of administrators today that got some similar advice as well. So thank you for everything that you did as an unofficial mentor. Thanks, Steve.
Rhonda Massachusetts.
It's not turning. I might not see. Anyway. Okay, so 31 years ago, I was hired as an aide in District 158, and one of my assignments that year was to work in a PE classroom, actually several junior high PE classrooms with Terry Aury. So I was his aide for part of the day. We had a lot of fun times. Yes, we did. And then over the next 30 years, we had all the rapid growth. We were in different buildings. We were in mobiles. sometimes our roles changed. Sometimes they intertwined, sometimes they didn't, but we have a lot of fun shared memories. The bathroom story still is my favorite story ever. You'll never forget that. Neither will I. And we'll share it sometime. It's funny. Yeah, very funny. I have always considered you such a great friend, so thank you for that. I've learned a lot from you. Some of the main things I've learned truly are to always look for the positive in people and in every situation. I've learned the importance of patience, and no matter what, when I'm making the decision, to make sure that I'm always considering what's best for kids all the time. So thank you for being such a great influence in my life, and I'm glad our story will continue. Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
Dr. Rowe.
All right. Rarely in life do we encounter someone as compassionate and caring as Terry Ori. I became a principal 8 years ago in this district, and like Jake said, he's very, very true. It's 6131 is a number you want to know because you'll be referring to it often. I may have referred to it and used it more as a high school principal than a middle school principal, and it may be a number that we ought to retire, Dr. Budzinski, because I feel sorry for whomever accidentally gets that number, because I can see Mr. Litchfield now automatically going to it and getting some poor first-year teacher. Or maybe you should just follow Terry to Conley. Many of those conversations really just required Terry to listen. And he's, as you know, he's one of the best listeners around. He listened to me complain. He listened to me ask for advice. He listened to me work through a problem where I didn't need anyone to tell me what to do. I just need someone to be there and listen to me work it out when I had no one to turn to, because as principal, a lot of times it all falls right at your feet and you don't have that person, that go-to person, and Terry was always that person for me. So now with some newfound position of power, I have a few things that I can guarantee for you now, Terry, and I know this in the most positive way. I give you my word that our administrative team will carry on the legacy of putting kids first and believing in your motto that as adults in this world, we have the God-given responsibility to love, lead, and inspire all children. Thank you for all that you've done and contributed to our district. It means the world to us. So, while I'm still within my 3 minutes, I'm going to shift and thank someone else who I know equally does not appreciate this attention, but deserves a little appreciation for the time and energy that he's given to us. Dr. Hawk, for the last few months, has been the leader of our district as interim superintendent, and I've greatly, greatly appreciated the opportunity to learn from him, and has given me a different perspective than one that I've known all of these years under Dr. Berkey, which has not only allowed me to balance some of my thoughts and approaches to things, but validated some of the things that not only we've been doing for the last number of years, but some of the thoughts and ideas that I've had that I've really appreciated. And like Terry, as we've toured the district in many different opportunities, you hear the exact same theme from everyone that we encounter. Dr. Hawk, I can't believe you remember me and remember those situations. And oftentimes it wasn't even that. It was, Brad, it's so good to see you. Do you remember all of these good times? And that is a theme that definitely should, it follows a person for the quality of person that they are. So to both of you, thank you very much for all that you've done for me personally, and for all that you've done for the district. I also will continue to call you. And don't be surprised if I show up down in over at Conley. Join you for bus duty. We'll help some kids get in the building, and I may tug on your ear with a few ideas. Thank you.
Okay. Very kind words, wonderful words. Is there anybody on the board that would like to have the forum?
Just real quick, Terry, I didn't get a chance to talk at either the events that were held for you. I just very quickly, the one thing I'll tell you is we can replace the work that you do, but we can't replace the person who's doing it and the manner in which you did your job. That's irreplaceable. Again, I've watched you, and the example you put forth to everyone is just, I just think the world of you. I just think you're one of the nicest people to deal with, and just really enjoy listening to you talk and present information. I think you just treat people in such a manner that is just such a great example for everyone, and it's going to be tough for anybody to succeed or to carry on in the manner in which you did, because it's such a high standard to follow. So just been very fortunate to have spent the time with you here in the district. I do want to take a second to leech over here with Brad and thank him. The work to fill in, and it wasn't just fill-in work. Brad had to roll up his sleeves, work pretty hard here for us. We asked a lot of him during this time frame. We had a lot going on, so it wasn't somebody just keeping a chair warm. This is an extreme professional. It's funny, Brad. I listened to you talk about others, coming back to the district this many years, and how this person's evolved and how that person's evolved. And to be honest with you, I can remember when you were here, and you should see how you've evolved. It's really impressive and extremely professorial and absolutely a mentor to people, and just we were extremely fortunate to have had the opportunity to have you come in here and work with us. So appreciate it very much.
Just to chime in. It's one of the very neat and inspiring things about a career in education, which I don't have the good fortune of having one. But hearing all the comments today in terms about just the ability you have to affect so many people for the good, and I can see that, through everything everyone said in the room. And I'm not, nearly qualified to even hold a candle to any of the comments or the experiences conveyed. But just wanted to say thanks for the legacy, and obviously the legacy that you provided will live on with everyone here and all the students that you've touched. So thank you. And then thank you as well to Brad. We did consider other folks for the role, and that lasted about 10 seconds into your interview. To Tony's point, I think you came in and grabbed the wheel, and I guess the biggest thing I've learned is your dedication and passion for the development of people. And I can see that pretty much in everything you do and you say and your actions. So very much appreciated. And it did not feel like an interim role to me. Felt we're in very capable hands. So thank you.
It did feel like coming home.
Okay. I want to see if Mr. Troy wants to say anything. I don't want to put you on the spot, Paul, but.
No, thanks. Terry, I've been fortunate to work with you for 9 years, and my first memory when I came onto the board was an issue where I was thrown into the mix at a CEDA meeting, and I had to call you on the spur of the moment to get some advice and some help because there was nobody else to turn to. And as a new board member at that time, I still look on that first moment as my first impression of you, and quite honestly, nothing has changed. You've been a stalwart person and just a tremendous asset to the district, and I greatly appreciate it, both on a personal level and from a board level. So thank you for all you have done, and those words just don't seem to be enough. Brad, I also, on the same wavelength, have been fortunate to have you as a professor at NIU, and have always wondered what it'd be like to work with you beyond just having a class where you were the professor. And it's been a wonderful experience. I'm sorry that it is as short as it is, but I get to have that to carry with me going forward. Thank you for all that you have done for our district in this short period of time that I've worked with you. But even beyond that, thank you for everything that you've done in my education and even for the district before I got here. So thank you, gentlemen, both. Greatly appreciate your efforts and your passion for this district.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to repeat what everybody has said, but I will kind of wrap up by just saying both of you gentlemen help remind us why we're here. We get our packets for every meeting. It's sometimes 300 to 500 pages, a lot of numbers, a lot of dollars, a lot of other things, policies, laws, and you can get caught up in that. But then you talk to these gentlemen, and they ground you and remind you that we are here for the students. And it shows in everything you do. Every decision you make, every way you handle things is about what's best for the students. And it makes those 300 to 500 pages worth it every time. So thank you both for all your time. I know Brad is still going to be around kids because apparently he's on, 14 grandchildren?
14 grandkids, yeah.
Yeah, so that's like a half a classroom. So, and Terry, I'm glad you're still going to be around on a different basis. But you both have been great. You've made this what it is, and thank you both very much. Really appreciate it. Okay, on that happy note, item number 20, I will make a motion to adjourn at 8:39. Is there a second? Second. Okay, got a second from, I think, Mr. Guerin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.